everybody, welcome back to Christian's Quarantine Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a carrot and ginger soup with turmeric in it. It's only 5 ingredients that I can almost guarantee you have in your house, plus some salt, pepper, and olive oil. So we're gonna get started first by roasting the carrots. So we have our carrots here. You can see I left most of them whole. This one, just because it was big, I did slice it in half. So to the carrots, we're just gonna add a little drizzle of olive oil. Just enough to get the salt, pepper, and the turmeric to stick to the carrots. So we add the olive oil. We're gonna add just about, I'd say, a teaspoon and a half of salt. You can just add that right over the top of the carrots. You don't really need to worry about mixing these around too much because they're going to be pureed anyway once they're in the soup. So just as long as you kind of sprinkle it on evenly, it should be fine, just so nothing will burn. The turmeric, I recommend, if you have it in a jar similar to this, I recommend you put it in a little bowl with a spoon, just because it's really easy to dye your hands bright yellow, so I usually try to avoid touching it. Also, I just put a piece of tin foil over the baking tray just so it wouldn't stain between the carrot juices and the turmeric. So this you can kind of sprinkle on top. We're looking for about a teaspoon to go on the carrots, and then we're gonna add some more into the soup as well. So once that's all on, you can just kind of give it a quick shake, just so none of the turmeric sticks to the bottom of the pan. And then this is gonna go into a 425-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour. But you're really just gonna take them out when they start to char just on the top. The next thing we're gonna do is chop up our ginger. So first, this is just a fresh ginger root. This is definitely what you're gonna wanna use for this soup. You're not gonna want to substitute in ginger powder. You definitely need to have the fresh ginger because it's just much stronger flavor. So to peel the ginger, it's actually easiest to use a spoon. So you can see I'm just kind of holding the back of the spoon with my thumb, and then you're just kind of going across the ginger. It really should peel easily. If there's a big root in it like that, you can just cut that out with a knife. So we're not gonna need this whole thing. We're just looking for about a quarter of a cup of the chopped ginger. So when you have your piece or pieces of ginger, you can just kind of chop them into smaller slices first. It'll make it easier to mince. We're gonna cut this similar to the way we cut garlic, and we're just really looking to mince it. This doesn't need to be perfect in shape because, again, everything is going to be pureed. So once you have your ginger here, you can just use your normal method, hand on the top of the knife, make sure your fingers are bent up, and then just kind of go through the ginger until it's all minced. In addition to the carrots and ginger, you're also going to need one small diced yellow onion. So as you can see, we have our carrots here. They did start to develop some nice char on top after about 45 minutes in the oven. So now we're just going to prep them for the soup. To do that, you can even leave them right on the tray. Just kind of chop them into smaller pieces, just so they break down a little bit easier when they're cooking in the soup, so it's easier to puree. The good thing about this is that you can cook the carrots in advance. You can have them roasted in advance and just let them cool in the refrigerator for up to 24 hours before you do the soup. So you can even make the carrots the night before and then make the soup the next day, and they will still be good. So we have our carrots here. Now we're going to start putting everything together in the soup. So we have our pan here heating up over medium heat. To that, I added just about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're going to add our onions in. And we're gonna let the onions cook for a little bit before we add the ginger. So now our onions have been cooking for about 2 minutes. So we're going to add the ginger. And we're just gonna give that a quick stir. After your ginger and onion have been sauteing together for about 2 minutes, we're going to add about a teaspoon of black pepper. And we're also going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of some more turmeric. We're just gonna give this a stir, and then we're gonna cover it and let it cook for about 3 minutes. So after it's been covered and cooking for a couple minutes, just gonna give it another stir. Just kind of scrape it around. Now to this, we're going to add 1 quart of chicken stock. I would recommend using a chicken stock that is no added sodium or very low in sodium, because we don't want the soup to be too salty. We're gonna just give all this a good stir. We're going to cover this now and allow it to come up to a low simmer. Now that this has come up to a low simmer, we are going to add all of our carrots in. Make sure with the carrots, add all of the juices that collected on the pan while it was cooking. It's all really, really good flavor and has all the extracts from the carrot that kind of cooked off while it was roasting in the oven. We're just gonna give that a stir. Now our final ingredient, which is completely optional, is 2 tablespoons of orange juice. This just adds a little bit of acidity to the dish, but if you don't want to add that, you don't have to. So now we're just going to bring this to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now that the soup has been simmering for a few minutes, we're just going to puree it all together before we serve. So if you don't have one of these, this is a stick blender or an immersion blender. You can cool this soup slightly and put it in a regular blender to puree it, and then you can just return it back to the pot to heat it up. This is why it's important to have a pot that's not coated in a non-stick coating, because otherwise this will scratch that. So we want to make sure you're using just a regular stainless steel pot to puree it. You can allow the soup to simmer until you're ready to serve, and then you can serve it just on its own, or this could also be a base for a meat dish.